I'm with Trevor Austin. Trevor Austin, who is primarily a dry cleaning engineer.
That's me.
And for how long, Trevor?
About 35 years now.
35 years. And how would you describe your last 35 years, Trevor?
Well, interesting, but tailing off now. I'm afraid the dry cleaning industry is not what it used to be.
Right.
Gone from installing to fixing old wrecks mainly.
Right. Okay. So, Trevor, I know you told me a very interesting story how you first got into dry cleaning industry. Just take us through that for the viewers, please.
I got into this industry plain and simply because I needed a new car. I was doing a research and development job at the time, which I enjoyed. It was very interesting because it was always new toys to play with and new things. But I was driving into London every day and my car was worn out. The job wasn't paying that well. So I decided to get a job that gave me a car, and that's how I ended up being a dry cleaning engineer with Bowie.
So the need for the car led you to the dry cleaning.
It did indeed, yes.
Very interesting. Right, Trevor, take us through the journey in the last 30 years, all the transformation that you have witnessed within the dry cleaning industry.
Unfortunately, I have to say, generally it's bad. 35 years ago, this was a very lucrative trade. The shops did very well. There was plenty of work, good prices charged, and a good turnover of machinery because the money was available to buy new machinery. As time's gone on, the world's moved on, clothing habits and materials have changed. Clothing has become much more throwaway, and dress code's much more casual, meaning lots less work for serious dry cleaners. The end result generally is that prices have dropped, quality has probably dropped as well, and new machinery has become very rare because the shops don't do the turnover to warrant it anymore.
Right. Well, after hearing this, I feel like, going to the closest cliff and perhaps jump.
I feel a bit that way myself.
I mean, it's. I mean, you're painting a quite gloomy picture of the dry cleaners of the future.
I think the future is not great. I think the only way forward for dry cleaning is for a lot of the shops to close because there simply isn't the work in dry cleaning to sustain the number of shops, which means the competition is too tight, prices drop, and the profit margin is not what it used to be.
Well, this is already happening as we speak.
It is.
Lots of shops are closing down. Yeah. Pandemic didn't help. I think pandemic really kind of pushed it. Yes.
Yeah.
Having said that, would you say those dry cleaners would survive who perhaps are thinking outside of the box and are able to adapt to changes quite rapidly?
Of course, you need to be able to adapt to changes, yes. The market has changed a lot and is still changing and will continue to change. So, yes, absolutely, you need to be quick off the mark with new ideas, new changes. But the traditional dry cleaning certainly is suffering and will continue to suffer. There is still a market there, but it's so much smaller than it was.
Sure. So when we talk about changes, what are we saying? What changes are we referring to? So things like perhaps wet cleaning, diversifying your services?
Absolutely. Wet cleaning, in an ideal world, I think every dry cleaner would have a wet cleaner and use both as appropriate to the garments they're working with. But of course, the problem there again is costs and volumes. Whether you have enough volume to justify both types of process, and indeed the will to learn a new process.
Right. Okay. What about diversifying your services?
That again is obviously necessary. I mean, a lot of going back into key cutting and things, but the trouble there even is that keys are becoming more difficult to key cut. A lot aren't still really key cuttable. But obviously we need to look at any way that you can bring revenue into the business.
Yeah. And what about these alternative chemicals to Perk? Because obviously Perk is kind of, being phased out systematically. So what about the other alternatives that we have available other than Perk? Are they any good? What's your experience on that?
My experience on the alternative chemicals, to be perfectly frank, is quite limited because most of my customers, or the vast majority of my customers, still use Perk. That is perhaps partly because there haven't been that many new machines installed, so it's going to be Perk. But what I have seen of the alternatives, I've worked with hydrocarbon, green earth and K4 a little bit, and I not over impressed with the difference. They all have their benefits, but they all have their downsides as well. Machinery inherently is more expensive. The chemicals, or the cleaning chemicals are generally more expensive. The process times are generally longer. There are some benefits in being able to clean things that you otherwise would not be able to, or at least very hesitant to do. But I've not seen anything that really I think, wow, that's good.
Okay. So simply what you are basically saying is currently Perk is still the king.
For my customers, Perk is still king, yes.
Okay. All right, Trevor, on a sort of practical level, just trying to help our viewers. I see today you are servicing Bowie. What model is this?
This is a P525.
P525. Now, would you say generally all the machines have a similar principle?
They indeed all must inherently have the same principle.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. With your, this the wealth of knowledge and experience that you possess, can you just take us through very briefly any tips perhaps you could give to the viewers, to a typical dry cleaner, thing they should watch out for in order to keep the machines running smoothly?
Obviously, routine maintenance is very important. Silly things like dirty lint filters have a huge effect on the machine, and often, for no good reason, machines are struggling with things like that. Routine maintenance, I can't stress, it is very important. You do need to clean things, keep the machine clean. If it's not clean, it's not going to do its job. Filter maintenance as well must be done regularly. A lot of people at the moment are saying, oh, I don't do it very often because I'm not doing any work. It's not really a good reason not to carry out your routine maintenances. You will end up calling someone in to fix it for no good reason if you're not careful.
Okay, so cleaning all the filters.
Yes, cleaning lint filters, solvent filters, button traps, all
Regularly?
Regularly, regardless of whether you're doing much work. It still needs doing, and if you don't do it on a regular basis, it gets forgotten and becomes an issue.
Sure, and you mentioned the particular filter you mentioned.
The lint filters.
The lint filters.
They obviously vary on different machines, but they are very important. And the solvent filter really equally must be cleaned on a regular basis.
In terms of parts, is there any part, any sort of common part perhaps every dry cleaner should have spares?
Well, the nice ones to have would be the simple things like gaskets for the distillation.
So if you just point out to us, perhaps on the machine, which gasket you're referring to?
The steel door, and that
Okay.
would be the gasket.
So the gaskets on the steel door, they're quite common. They
are quite common. That is one that has been removed, and you can see it's very badly worn.
Right. Okay.
Out of shape and worn.
So gasket
Not fit for purpose.
on this for the steel door.
Steel door, steel sight glasses.
Again, I take it because there's a lot of heat being generated, and they tend to.
The heat does tend to cook the gaskets
Yeah.
over the year.
Yeah.
And over tightening gaskets on doors and things also destroys them, which is largely what's happened to the one I just showed you.
Right. Okay. So gaskets. Anything else they should stock up?
Probably not
Typically?
an awful lot, no, because there's nothing that regular.
Well, perhaps they should stock up your telephone number to help them out.
Well, there's an idea.
Well, on that note, Trevor, any last few words for the viewers?
Good luck. I think is probably what's required at this stage in in the dry cleaning industry.
Sure. Trevor, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you.